Hey, everybody, welcome in. It's Wrestling Daily. I'm Matt Camp. Thank you for being with me today. Here on Bleacher Report, if you're catching it on my YouTube, thanks. Leave a comment. Where can you do that? You can, maybe right here. There I am at the Mad Camp. Hit me up on all the places. I'm trying to talk a little bit more to the people on Blue Sky. I enjoy it over there. Not going to be one that says, oh, I'm over with Twitter. Because I want to be and I can't be, because that is the name of the promotional game. Hello. Are you enjoying your wrestling this week? Are you excited about All In on Saturday? Are you excited about any of the shows this weekend? It is a big weekend for pro wrestling, and the counter programming and all that stuff has been talked about. We are going to talk today a lot about the women in the spotlight this weekend, because I think it is very telling how in the spotlight they are, how they are being presented, how they are being used. Two different things there. And what I actually think, and I've spoken about this a little bit, it means for the future of professional wrestling as a whole. And we'll be kind of diving in a little bit deeper on All in Texas and the card and some of the performers that you may or may not know a lot about. That's kind of what I wanted to do this week, because I know there's a lot of people, and I love this, come on in, there's no gatekeeping here, that are going to take a look at All In this weekend. It is the marquee event for AEW. It has become that. This event has taken place at Wembley Stadium the last couple of years. And you know what? While we're talking about that, as I mentioned a little bit yesterday, there is, if you're a longtime fan of me, you know I will appreciate this. There has been a great uptick of programming and old stuff and stuff from last year that AEW, obviously, you can go check it out on Max. But in addition to that, you can also now go over to their YouTube, and there's full matches being uploaded. Let me see if I can bring this up and I can show you guys. Just before I get into so much of All In and where the women are going to be at. But I know a lot of people are watching for the very first time or are checking in and may want to see more, may be looking at this and going, hey, what does AEW have to offer me? Whether, there are people that over the years, I'm sure, have checked in on WrestleMania or checked in on the Royal Rumble or SummerSlam, and if their attention is caught, they stick around. If not, maybe they go back to not paying attention to wrestling. Those people exist. I get that. I know a lot of fans that, over the years when I worked at the WWE would be, hey, I'm back in. This is great. Cool. And I had people that would hit me up around WrestleMania season that I grew up with, went to college with, or whatever. Hey, this was great. I saw that. Man, what's going on with that? And I would share my thoughts and opinions and, what I knew. But this is a time to capture, capture's not even the right word. Capture, I mean in a good way. Captivate. I'm not trying to capture anybody. I don't look at fans as dollar signs. I don't think that's good business. At least you don't talk about that publicly. Of course, there's, merch per head and all this minutia. Guys don't care about. We'll talk about wrestling. But I think the soul of professional wrestling is engaged fans. It's fans that care, whether they care because they love it, whether they care because it makes them sad or happy. Or you ask any wrestler to a person, they will tell you how much better the job is when you have a crowd that gives a shit. And there have been times where I have watched matches in various companies, and I say, my God, if this had a better crowd, how much better this match would be, how it would be perceived. And that happens. Um, and wrestlers can feel that. I think there is something that gets a bit overblown when it comes to sheer number of people in the building. And it's not for you, the viewer at home. That looks awesome. I'm going to bring up some of these matches I was just talking about that are on the AEW YouTube page, and you'll see Wembley the last 2 years. It looks amazing. You step through that curtain and look out at 20, 40, 60, 80,000 people. Some people never thought they'd get that chance. Some of your favorites that are going to wrestle this weekend, not that long ago, were wrestling in smaller places. This is not the bingo hall indie thing. This is, the perspective is different. That kind of stuff is, well, you were working hard for 50 fans and a hot dog and a hand. Like, no, that's such antiquated horseshit. Those crowds at those shows on the way up to the big leagues, PWG in Reseda, California, at a VFW hall outside of Los Angeles. The ECW arena, the 2300 arena, where AEW will be for a residency next month. Hammerstein, some of the new venues that have been now, gotten a little bit more love. You think about, the MGM in Boston at Fenway, and I just had a conversation with Victor from the Wrestling Club on Twitter yesterday, just talking about the Mercedes and Athena match and talking about the Takeshita and Ospreay match that happened that night. And I said, you expected those matches to deliver. The women opened up the night with Mercedes being out there, and this will kind of help us transition into our discussion of the females in the spotlight. But Mercedes went out there in front of, her hometown, a place she's well known for, as, the favorite to win the Owen, and went up against Athena, who they have kept completely apart from Mercedes because Athena's been running Ring of Honor. But there was this showdown that, was inevitable. It happens in the first round. They light it up. At the end of, or towards the end of the night, we get Takeshita and Ospreay. And I've said this a lot. I like to experience wrestling shows from different perspectives. I will watch from Gorilla. I will watch from, the corner behind the curtain. If you're at a show that I'm at, you might see me walking around the floor. I love to get the feel of what it's like to be out there. What are people paying attention to? What are they reacting to? I love to kind of hear conversations. I take all of that stuff in. And I file it away. I see a lot of this T-shirt. Man, they're really into this. Man, the swerve chants were off the charts. They were everywhere. Hey, I think blah, blah, blah is really starting to connect. Or, hey, that move looks great. Whatever it might be. I always try to feel that in different ways. So for that Takeshita Ospreay match, which please go watch that one. It is available right now to stream on Max from the Spring Breakthrough show, the show that broke the Nitro record. It's not 5,000 people. It's not 15,000 people. It is a raucous, jam-packed, I don't even know what the number was, 3,000 people, 4,000 people, all on top of each other in a venue that had never, I feel, at least not for a big-time promotion, had run wrestling. And they did, and it was immediate of, we got to come back here. Whether it was AEW talking that way or the wrestlers or fans, that's a special building for professional wrestling. And it began on that night in April. I say all that to say these bigger arenas or bigger stadium shows, the sound can be tough to feel when you're in the ring. Talk about anybody who's wrestled, a big stadium show and Mania or anything like that, or previous All-Ins, or if it's open, the sound can go up and out because everything's so spread out. It is tough to gauge some of the reactions, which is why these smaller venues, if they're jam-packed and people are enthused and they're into you feel all of it. I honestly believe that's been a huge part of why AEW's been on such an unbelievably hot run, and really starting at the beginning of the year. Yes, I know I'm there, but I have you can hear it and see it. Is because I think the crowds have become, or not become, the crowds are as locked in as you can be for the most part. I think those crowds are there to be enthusiastic and to engage, and I also think that the flow of the show, yes, there's a good amount of wrestling, but the flow of the show, because it can be fast paced, I don't think you have a lot of time to get back on your phone or sit down or wait for commercial. Like, there's not a lot of that. A lot of picture in picture, so the action continues. If you've ever gone to a wrestling show, it's why you might hear people go, not that there's that many of them anymore, but like, go to a house show. There's not TV constraints. You're not working for commercials. You don't have to take big breaks. The action continues. The crowd can get a little bit more into it. That keeps you engaged. And you go to a long TV, any company, you might get burnt out. You might be coming there after a long day, or summer days now, it's hot, and you're just tired out and you got your kids with you. If you tire out a crowd or you don't give them a reason to stay engaged, an energy level is going to dip. And you're going to hear that during the matches. So that's why I think those numbers, because people are like, well, they're not, people worry about other people's money far too often in pro wrestling. Even though certain places will promote that they've made so much off of you. It's not like you're getting it back. But I look at, give me a crowd that's engaged and hot. Go watch Samoa Joe against Bryan Danielson in Ring of Honor. Go watch Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson in Ring of Honor. Take your pick. Those crowds aren't massive, but they're hot as hell, and they're banging that rail. I don't know how the hell that sounds to you guys. Anyway, I want to show you quickly here the AEW YouTube page, not to give you homework, but to give you something fun to do. I said this yesterday. If it's a big pay-per-view week, if it's a a foundational show, I like to go back and watch the history of that, whatever that might be, even as someone who's seen these matches before. So let's take a look. Here's the AEW YouTube page. They have absolutely kicked their game up in a big way. So you got a mix of stuff here to check out. Let me see if I can give you more of this page here. Right? Not working? That'll help. So, first of all, the Stokely and Statlander versus Ishii and Willow match, a personal favorite, just because of that's a match graphic that is a fever dream. A fun match to watch from 0 Hour last year, the pregame show. Now, if you want to be enthralled by your pro wrestling, if you want to feel the emotion, and if you know who the hell Bryan Danielson is, here is something I'm going to tell you that is not a lie, because it came from the man himself. You know Bryan Danielson's career. You know about his big moments in New Orleans. Taking over Raw, blah, 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 all that stuff. Multiple WrestleMania main events, all those things. he considers the match here with Swerve last year in London to be like the moment for him. Think about his career. That's not him being some company man. When you see the end of that match, because his family is in the building. And I know, he's had family in the building before, but you can see Bree and Birdie and Buddy, and they are a very visible part of the world title match where, by the way, if Danielson lost that match, that's it. He had to win the world title. So that stuff is there. We've seen, recently the top 10 moments of the week pop up. Here's one, as I said yesterday. We talked about this one, the All-In match from a couple years ago, kind of the beginning of Timeless Toni Storm, in a way. Ospreay and MJF from last year. It's so good. Also, catch a wonderful episode of AEW while you're at it. RJ's doing a lot of fun things and has almost talked to everyone. But you can see all the stuff that has popped up as of late. Oh, here's a good one to check out. Right here. Maximum Carnage. Oh, the memories I would have had of Maximum Carnage. Hangman against Christopher Daniels. It's the full match. It's a death match. There's a lot of story involved in that, with kind of Hangman going through it at the beginning of the year. That's in, I think, I think it's January 15th that match goes back to. And those two, with their connection as friends, and Daniels kind of being his mentor, it really does play into the road Hangman has been on to get to the world title match that he has this Saturday. Here goes another couple more. MJF and Cole from a couple years ago. Jericho and Ospreay from a couple years ago. Darby and Jack Perry last year in a coffin match. The TNT Championship? Yeah, coffin match. So all kinds of good stuff. There's another Texas Death Match, by the way. I know this was briefly mentioned. They have had Moxley and Hangman, a Texas Death Match before, but this will be a much different feel. But go check out that one from Revolution from a few years back. Anyway, all that stuff's there. Oh, and maybe one of them. I'm going to click this one to even show you this one. It's 12 minutes. It's 38 seconds. This might be the match that, on a big scale, I would say on a big scale, this match right here might have been one of the one of the most important matches in AEW, because it established what it was bringing to the table that was different to other places. People who knew who Pac was, and then facing Orange, who's doing this kind of stuff right here. And I think a big part of this is why it connected is Jim Ross on commentary. And shout out to JR. I know he's on the mend. We're going to see him this weekend or hopefully soon. You haven't seen Tony Khan said some really nice things about JR recently, but JR almost like in the match, understanding what Orange Cassidy was. It's one of those. I know we had Tom Green on last week. By the way, Tom's going to be back with us tomorrow. But I know we had Tom on last week, and he gave you 3 matches to check out. I put that match in the conversation of what represents AEW. Okay, I've gone far too long on everything else. Shocker. I want to talk about the women here for a little bit, because it is a big weekend for them. It's a big weekend because it is very hard to have two people come together who have both found massive success in the industry. I think you could argue that both women, whether it be currently, whether it be at different times in their career, have a stake to the claim that they are the best wrestler in their division. I hate limiting it to women, because I truly believe that the in-ring work that Mercedes has put in throughout her entire career is unbelievably consistent. I think to the point where when she was out trying new things and starting AEW. I'll give you my comparison. If you're a Mets fan, you will get this. She's Carlos Beltran. She's so damn good in the ring and has wrestled a ton of matches in the last 10 years with a massive spotlight on her. Had some of the greatest matches we've seen in the last 10 years. Had one of the most important matches in pro wrestling history against Bayley in Brooklyn. Shout out to Pam. And almost like her greatness was expected. I don't want to say taken for granted. Maybe it was by some people. And then there was, well, she's not doing what she used to do there. Maybe she's no, she's not coasting. She can make it look very easy sometimes. But to be able to get Mercedes to that level, and by the way, there's probably a playlist of just her matches alone that would get you hyped up for this weekend when it's her and Toni. I am so happy that these two get to meet on Saturday. Because I truly believe, and I told her this, I told her this 4 months ago. Not that it'll be any different now, but I told Toni, I said, to me, you're the best thing going in pro wrestling right now. And all I will say is she's a very humble person. Not that that should surprise anyone, but she ain't resting on what she's done so far. And I think Mercedes is built in a very similar way. I've done a lot. I've achieved a lot. I'm not done, though. It's not enough for me. There has got to be, and they've discussed this a little bit, there has to be a massive feeling of accomplishment for both of these women to have reached seemingly the pro wrestling mountaintop years ago, or the place where you're supposed to be at the top of the industry. I would say, obviously, Mercedes has gotten there and has been there. I don't think Toni ever got anywhere near the same heights as Mercedes when they were working together in the same company, but they both left on their own accord. And not an easy thing to do. I applaud them for it. Not everybody can do that. Sometimes you have to suck it up if you're not happy. But they both left, and they both, while not immediately, I want to make that clear, while not immediately, both Toni and Mercedes have found success by evolving who they are, by being, I think especially, at least I know in Toni's case, so willing to evolve and change your game and stand out. If you are not paying attention in the last couple of months, the people who are connecting the most with fans are the ones who not only do it in the ring, but allow you to feel who they are through their words, through their actions, through their look. Yes, the matches are part of it. I don't want to see Toni and Mercedes get close to each other in terms of having a match until Saturday, and they won't. But they have had this rivalry by going back and forth. It started with obviously Mercedes winning the Owen and Toni knowing that she's next. And, you know, there's been pictures posted that Mercedes has put up of them together in a ring before their AEW time. Hey, there was there's been interaction. These are two different people. And we've gotten to see that develop. And as I have said, I think it is such a different challenge and test for Mercedes is that she's never been in a rivalry like this before. I had said earlier, the majority of her career is her being the best. Sure, she's got a look and CEO or a boss, but it was backed up by, hey, I'm the best doing this. I look the best, I wrestle the best, I act the best, I talk the best. And I know I'm ESTing you here right now, but it's the same idea. But it wasn't necessarily about digging much deeper than that. Now, the stature of Mercedes and the stature of Toni, and they haven't crossed paths at this level, and they haven't crossed paths in a match of this level, to be able to peak that Saturday on a night where we're going to see Hangman and Moxley, and it might be Hangman's crowning moment, and it might be a massive page-turning new era starting in AEW if Hangman wins, on a night where Okada and Omega will add a chapter to a rivalry that I think shaped where pro wrestling has gone in the last 5 to 10 years, whatever you want to call it, since that match, the first match. You have a show where the Young Bucks are facing Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, and all four of those guys will want to have the best match of the night with no championships on the line. Plenty of stakes. You have that. You have the men's casino gauntlet. You have, the tag. There is star power up and down this card, and yet, including what very well could be one of the most emotional matches. If there is a happy ending, could be one of the most emotional endings we've ever seen, not only in AEW, but pro wrestling as a whole. And to be able to get that much behind someone, and yet still, I've heard plenty of conversation about this match right here being the main event. Legitimately, because it has every right to be. Because it is a very different story of Hangman and Mox. Hangman and Mox has happened before. As I have banged the drum many times, this Hangman is better than the one who was world champion. They have done it before. Completely different circumstances, completely different roles in terms of where they were in the company versus where they are now. Which is why there is so much emotion and hope. And on any other night, that's a no-brainer main event. And it might be the main event. But it's also on a show with Okada and Omega. And it's also on a show with these two. And I think the fact that this match is even being discussed as a main event on a card that is that loaded is a real great glimpse into what I think is happening with the future of wrestling. There's a lot of women's wrestling that's going on this week and weekend for various reasons. In addition to the all-in, there's this title match, but we're also going to see, we're going to get to see this weekend a women's casino gauntlet match. And that I'm excited about because it's only the second one. The men also have one, but it puts the women on a level where it's, okay, who's coming out next? And What can we expect to see here? And all those things. Um, but it adds more excitement. And also, who's going to win the title match? Who's going to win the title match? Who's going to win the gauntlet? And you're going to get to see, here, and we've talked about this a little bit, but coming up this week, you're going to see Mercedes and Toni have that face to face on Dynamite. But we're also going to see this, the 4-way for the number 2 spot in the Casino Gauntlet. So we're going to see, let me get my stupid face out of the way. Megan Bayne, who's lost, I believe, 1 time, only to Toni Storm. Tay Mello, who just came back recently. Queen Aminata, who I am a big fan of, and we've gotten to see a lot more of her recently. This is one of those matches where, if she goes in, and right now we know Chris Statlander has the number 1 spot. Let's say Queen Aminata wins the 2. If she goes in early, I could see her having what you might call, a spotlight performance. Thekla, I've been talking her up for a year, coming over from Stardom. Hasn't been in AEW very long. Took out Jamie Hayter right away. Had a very polarizing, talked about match with Queen Aminata. We've seen her, find potentially some alliance, if it's sticking or not, with, Sky and Julia. But this is the kind of weekend where you got, I just like that the women are fighting for stakes. And I know that this 4-way tomorrow night and what it will lead to in the Casino Gauntlet is just showing off how good women's wrestling is. And I don't even want to have to talk about it that way, but I know a lot's going on this week. And I'm just acknowledging the fact that I think we're probably heading down a path where, and I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I happen to think the star power is a lot more even. You could tell me right now that Toni Storm is the biggest star in all of pro wrestling, and I would agree with you. I would have said that about, there's been multiple women in that conversation from both companies over the years. It is a quality by talent. It is a recognition of the star power, and I don't like differentiating between the two. There are plenty of women who I go, yeah, it might be the best wrestler in the world right now, best worker in the world right now. Mercedes' run of matches is ridiculous. Literally, go pull up any of her last 5 or 6 matches on Cage Match and watch them. Go stream it on Max or watch it on New Japan World or wherever she popped up, or Stardom. She's on a tear. Good. Let's recognize that. I'm long on time. There's a good friend of mine who will be in Texas this week. Just text me back. So tomorrow, I'm going to be with Tom Green. Tom put a very interesting video out today about why Hangman has been important to the success of AEW this year. And it's something I want to talk to him about because there is such a tough balance to strike of what it means to have a villainous champion or group put a stranglehold on the company, and how fans might react to that, whether how they like it or don't like it, or why they don't like it, and then what that can lead to. All I will say is the last 9 months of Jon Moxley as world champion, everything that's happened during that time is why Saturday is such a big deal. It is the proper opponents at the proper time. Hangman's redemption is also about the world championship being on someone that the people want to get behind. And they want to get behind him because they see him as the man who can unseat a wrestler who wants to shape everything in his model in the present and years to come. And that mold has been cracked a lot in the last 6 months. And that mold of making, as he once said in a promo or on Up Close with Renee, I want to make 100 more Jon Moxleys because I'm not going to be here forever. Hangman can stop that on Saturday. Hangman can topple someone who disguises his philosophy on pro wrestling as an ends as a proper end to the means. To justify what he's doing. All he's doing is keeping his world title. Hangman can take the world title away from someone that fans want to see go down. Why do they want to see him go down? Think about it. We'll talk more about that tomorrow with Tom Green. I have gone long. I apologize for that. Another episode coming your way tomorrow with Tom. We'll talk Dynamite and All In. And then one more on Thursday before a little break here, at least on BR for me, on the app for a bit. That's technical stuff. Nothing to do with me. But I hope you enjoyed the show today. Went a little long. Check it out here on BR. Check it out on my YouTube. Make sure to leave a comment. Hit me up down below. Thanks everybody who's sharing this, that's subscribing, all that stuff. I know I don't say it because I'm still trying to figure out where all this stuff's going to land, but I really appreciate all the support, and I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope you're back with me tomorrow with Tom Green. We're going to talk about wrestling even more right here on Wrestling Daily.